Yeah, I've been recording for the last 2.5 minutes, so...
Well, James has been recording for the last right now, so...
Yep, alright. We...
Right.
Sync.
Oh, there
there goes
my
your strip.
LED.
No!
There goes the LED string.
No!
Oh, we'll fix it. We'll fix it later.
Yeah, it doesn't look like it's...
It won't...
It's not going to burn the house down.
No. Anyway.
Right.
You know, the way your camera corrects, the color corrects, it makes it look brown, but I assume it's orange.
It is orange, yes.
Okay. Color balance on webcam.
It is audibly orange.
Yeah. Audibly orange. Color balance on webcams has never really been their strong suit.
What does orange sound
Or
like?
white balance, rather.
Does, orange sound like ticking?
Well, I mean...
Like a clock?
Because sound and light are waves, correct?
Well, kind of. Light can also be acting as a particle in certain instances because it's weird like that.
Sure. So if you were...
That's no fair. You changed the outcome by observing it.
Excuse me. Would you be able to make a sound that has an equivalent wavelength to the wavelength of orange?
You would need to transform it to be a lot faster.
Yeah.
Because light...
Yeah.
You could create a function that would extrapolate a sound from color. It wouldn't sound pretty, probably. It'd just be
Well, I mean, the fact that we don't perceive the waves with the same organs, sure, in concept, if you had the auditory organs in place to be able to perceive, frequencies of light with your hearing, then yeah, orange has a sound. But we don't, so...
Yeah.
In theory, it's possible, but otherwise, yeah, you'd have to transform the heck out of it.
All of the colors are just screams.
I can hear the screams of the light.
What is
Only
it?
the darkness is my escape.
What was it? Saphira experiences emotions as color in Aragon. Go back and listen to that episode if you want. Something like that, or that's how she expresses it. That came to mind.
I mean, psychologically, we associate color with emotions.
Blue,
Red
roses
too.
Red roses too.
I remember when I showed that to your siblings, Nathan. Isaac was just like, "Oh no!" It was like, I know where this is going.
And yeah,
it's not hard to figure out where that was headed.
That's also the kind of joke we would make growing up. It's funny, but we made YouTube poops before we realized what they were.
Yep.
We on my first ever phone, it was one of those bricks that just didn't flip or anything. It had buttons still.
Yep.
One of the things we would do is we'd make videos on there. And one of the things is we would start the video, pause it, and then start it again. It would videotape what's on the TV. So we would take a clip from the thing and then fast forward to the next thing or whatever. That's where the original version of What's All That Racket in There that Isaac made, that dumb video about Junior Asparagus waking his dad up or whatever.
Yep.
That was where that idea initially came from. That was one of the jokes we had made on that dumb phone.
At Lennon Dash, if you want to go watch it on YouTube.
It's good stuff. Might have
Shout
it
out.
on the
If you're into YouTube poops,
Yeah.
as
weird.
half of the two listeners are,
Yep.
Roughly.
I don't know if one of them has ever watched or would have any interest whatsoever in watching. My gut says no.
I think she'd roll her eyes, but
Bear with it because her fiance is there too.
Yep. Once you get kind of locked in, you don't have to worry about scaring people anymore.
That's
I mean, you do, but the consequences of scaring them are different.
True. You'll get an eye roll. And probably
You'll get an
like,
eye roll,
this is
or
dumb.
you might have to sleep on the couch for a week.
That's
Who knows?
true. That is also true. So if we wanted to troll John, just figure out a way to make he and Faith watch YouTube poops. Just so let's not discuss sabotaging a future marriage.
Just get them the most comfortable couch possible for their as a
yeah,
wedding gift.
yeah. There we go. So is it really a punishment? I mean, come on. Look at this nice plush velveteen. Actually, is that a thing? I don't think.
Velveteen's a rabbit.
Well, that was the fabric the stuffed rabbit was made of in the story. And then the boy
Isn't
got
that like
scarlet
a
fever
drink?
and had to
um,
burn all of his belongings because they had the scarlet fever. Ugh.
Oh yeah, what that was about?
Yeah.
isn't Velveteen like a powdered drink beverage made of velvet?
See, velvet is a cloth.
More Velveteen, please.
Oh, okay. I see what you did there.
Do they make the chocolate one out of ovals?
Mhm.
And do
That's
they give you decoding rings just to say drink more?
Yep.
More Circle-teen, please.
Oh yeah.
Circle.
You guys have been playing outside for 18 hours. I forgot about that one.
Oh, good old classic YouTube. bits.
That was like a kind of a fever dream type of deal there.
I mean, that's a lot of YouTube videos, particularly the ones that you end up watching.
That's true. It's sort of a bizarre fascination and slight horror at times. Like those weird ones. I can't remember the name of the channel, but like it's got the aesthetic of like those early 2000s like Windows games or whatever, like those 2D ones. Where the animation, like the audio is all kind of distorted and weird, and the animation is just like repetitive, and the whole thing comes together for a sort of lucid dream experience that is just super strange.
I've never had a lucid dream.
I have when I was sick a couple of times.
There may have been times where I was like vaguely aware it was a dream, but then just like didn't care enough to do anything and just went with it, and then woke up 10 minutes later.
It's a weird state of being, and for whatever reason, I find it really funny sometimes. Like there's this one video. It's like a weird animated video, and it's just synthesizer music or whatever, and these guys are driving away from the cops or whatever in a hover car, and then I'm watching it on the TV, and then John walks downstairs, looks at it, and he's like, "Nope," turns around and walks back upstairs. I was like,
We've
"Yeah,
made it
I have weird tastes. I will be the first to admit that."
I think we've made it a habit of talking about one of our two listeners.
Well, when you're roommates with,
I mean, sure,
it's
part of the life news.
That's how you do podcasting.
It's podcast
You
nepotism.
make constant reference to people surrounding the podcast, but aren't strictly part of the
They
podcast,
become part of
so
the
that
podcast.
your
lore.
listeners feel like they are part of your life,
Yeah.
and that's how you suck them in.
Oh,
And in the case of our two
yeah.
listeners, they already are.
Mm-hmm.
They're so
we
sucked
didn't-
in.
we
We
didn't.
live in the same house.
Yeah. We live in the podcast studio. It's no longer the podcast studio in the house. The house is the podcast studio, from which the rest of our lives emanate. Nowhere remotely close.
Is he made of podcast studio, or is podcast studio made of him?
He screams.
He
For he
screams,
does not
for he
know.
does not know.
I wonder which one came first, the gingerbread man or the Lego version of that.
I don't know. They sound
I'm fairly certain it was the gingerbread one.
That would make sense.
yeah.
Yeah, is the gingerbread house made of flesh or is he made of house? There was that sort of silly existential horror. That stuff gets me sometimes. Trying to think if there was something I'd seen recently that kind of struck a vein for.
Well, there was that bit in Mitchell's versus the Machines.
Oh yeah,
Where the two iPhone robot people
They're
that
like,
help the family.
brother, what is death? And their heads just kind of cocked to the side. This guy darkens
okay,
behind
time
him.
to change the subject.
Yeah.
They're,
Father, shall we cut the shoot in twain?
The only kind. Let's see.
that
We've
game
gone very
spit.
far out to sea, Father.
Are we going fishing?
This is a rather adult-sized parachute. Thomas, the 18th century boy who doesn't know he's about to be murdered by his dad.
That was a silly Game Grumps bit.
There's like 4 or 5 Game Grumps bits that I've seen that or heard that are like really good, and then everything else is
And
like
then a missed.
Yeah, and then I missed. Everything else is then I missed. I don't really. I've never really like tried to follow along with Game Grumps per se.
I watched them somewhat consistently.
Maybe
for a
it's
bit,
the
and
fact
like,
that most
this
of
is
the
pretty
games
repetitive.
that they play don't really interest me.
I think one of my favorite bits is they were like playing Mega Man 2 or something, and they decided, should we go to Flash Man or Crash Man? And do you think they hang out more because they rhyme, and then they started making up more Ashmen? It just kind of went off the rails. It was funny.
Yeah. And of course the would you like some iced tea, Batman? That's another classic bit. And then also I kind of like the I don't remember who the collab was with, but they were playing that Simpsons game or whatever, and they were doing Homer
Homie.
impressions.
No, they were doing Marge Simpson's impressions too.
Yep.
Like,
Yeah, those
eggs
are
for
pretty.
Bart.
Yeah.
Yep.
I need you to get eggs for Bart. Those and then of course there's Yoda's funny joke and so forth.
Just a couple others that we consistently.
Yeah. Quote.
It's funny.
Come
The
to
modern era like quotes a lot of movies and shows and memes and stuff, but we've always quoted things.
Yeah.
You know, as people in general. Shakespeare was quoted in the 18th and early 19th century.
I had
and stuff.
episodes of VeggieTales memorized by the time I was 6.
But it's like the modern day meme reference is like the old timey Shakespeare reference.
Like
And people would roll their eyes at that because they're a nerd that doesn't have a life.
yeah. That was I mean
Or like poetry or whatever, you know?
I just imagine like a family full of siblings like mine where, you know, one of our pastimes was trying to quote movies and then correcting each other's quotes. Like, no, he said this. No, he said that. But then it's just like these 18th century, or no, like 17th century kids correcting each other's Shakespeare or whatever.
I mean, that may have been a thing.
It could have been. We don't know. But we aren't quoting Shakespeare in this podcast. We're the Palladium Papists. I'm James.
I'm Nathan.
And I'm Riley.
And actually, it's interesting that the conversation was geared toward internet things that became popular and such, because we're talking about an indie game that was like one of the first major indie games to really take off. In this episode of Gregarious Games, we'll be talking about Cave Story.
Baby.
So, tell us about Cave Story, Nathan. What manner of game is this?
Well, I'm talking about it, and if
Yes.
you're a listener of the podcast, that might hint to you what kind of a game it is. It is a 2D action platformer with light Metroid-inspired elements. It came out in 2004 and was just a hobby passion project by one Daisuke Amaya, which I'm probably mispronouncing. He went by Studio Pixel, and he just released it for free on the internet. And people downloaded it and fell in love with it and translated it, and it became kind of one of the first major like breakout internet indie hits. It was later picked up and then distributed by Nicalis or whatever, that publisher. And you can get it pretty much anything you can play it on pretty much anything that'll run it.
Mm-hmm.
You can still get it for free. Anyway, Cave Story is a story that takes place in a cave.
Makes sense.
The end. No.
Riveting plot summary.
Are they trying to get out of the cave?
Yes, but it isn't, what?
There's no.
It's not Plato.
It's not Plato.
There's
Again,
there's no shadow
second week
puppets.
in a
Once
row,
again,
Second week in a row,
I
referencing
feel like we
Plato.
mention it every week, every time there's anything even vaguely alluding to a cave.
So yeah, the game opens up.
There's no shadow puppets.
The game opens up with the interception of a transmission. All right, I might need to remember some of these guys' names.
Yeah.
What is that guy's name? It's a rather Japanesey name.
It's like that Saddam Hussein meme that was going around like 2 months ago. One of my favorite ones was the one where it was in Plato's cave. The polar bear habitat, whatever the heck that diagram of a toilet was about.
Yeah, I think the toilet diagram was my favorite one. It's just the most ridiculous and
because
absurd.
it's this guy like blowing air through a straw into a toilet pipe for some reason, and it's like some sort of technical diagram, and I have no idea what on earth this guy is trying to do. It's while Nathan's looking up notes. Those
Kazuma.
Okay.
Kazuma Sakamoto is one of the characters.
It's falling even more.
The LED strip is audibly falling.
Sorry about that. I forgot the kid's name. So you intercept a transmission from a kid named Kazuma who's looking for his sister Sue on like this message board that he's trying to communicate with her. Then your character wakes up in a cave with nothing to his name but a hat and a scarf. And so you leave your little cave, you explore a little bit, you get a gun, and you open the door that has an eyeball, and you fall into a little village called Mimiga Town. Now, the Mimiga are a race of bunny creatures. They're like bunny-human hybrid type things. They're like, and they have, they're being like attacked by this doctor who goes by the Doctor. He's like a scientist guy who has a magical artifact called the Demon Crown, which is a very bad thing. And he also has two lackeys, a witch named Misery and a toaster robot guy named Balrog.
The brave little toaster.
Anyway, so you meet the Mimiga, and they show up, and they're like, "Hey, where's the girl Sue? We kind of need her." And they're like, she's not here right now, go away. And so you have the option to fight Balrog, but you can say no, which is kind of funny. You can say no to the first boss fight.
No.
So after like meeting the characters, there's like King. He's like the main head honcho of Mimiga Town. He's
as
like,
his name would suggest.
And everything went wrong ever since Sue showed up. She's not even a real Mimiga. She was actually a human turned into a Mimiga by the Doctor. It's this thing. Anyway, so you enter a teleporter and go to the egg corridor to go find her, which is like this corridor full of eggs.
Teleporter.
They're like giant like dragon eggs, and they're all like in these stasis pods where they have numbers and stuff, and it's like, something's going on here. So you go and find Sue, and she's being beat up by a big guy, and you shoot the big guy, and so you and her go back to the town. She gets locked up by King because she's the cause of all the troubles, so he figures
obviously
if I trade her to the Doctor, they'll leave the rest of us alone.
If only.
And Sue's like, "Hey, can you find my brother Kazuma and Professor Booster guy he was with? That was another one of the scientists that came with us to this island floating in the sky. By the way, this cave is in an island floating in the sky because
so it's underground, overground.
Yes. Anyway."
Get to the bottom of the cave, it's actually the sky.
Yeah, pretty much.
So it is kind of like Plato's cave.
Anyway, so you go back to the teleporter and go to the grasslands. You fight some dudes, you do some things, and you blow up a door and save Sue's brother and find old man Professor Booster. And y'all go back to Mimiga Village, and it's like, okay, here's what's going on. The Professor Booster's kind of figured stuff out, and he's like, so there's this red flower that grows natively on this island that the Mimiga don't think is poisonous. It's not actually poisonous. It'll just turn them into a giant monster that kills them, but also turns them into like a huge like weapon of mass destruction. So it is kind of poisonous.
So it's like a rabbit Hulk. Imagine
it's
that.
It's a rabbit Hulk thing, yeah. Anyway, the Doctor discovered that and wants to use the red flower and kidnap all of the Mamiga and use them to like take over the surface world.
So
as
just
you
think
do.
the were-rabbit from the classic Wallace and Gromit and the Curse of the Were-Rabbit.
Plato and the Curse of the Were-Rabbit. Is that-
Yep.
So no, yeah. And so we're like, hey, we gotta stop him from doing that thing, and it's a good thing that we have a robot soldier on our team,
Like you do.
because turns out the character you're playing as is a robot soldier that came to the island years ago in some attempt to destroy the flower and the Mamiga, because there was this conflict where they decided the only way to defend themselves was using the flower. And they
die.
swore it off. Anyway, so like the flower's bad news, the doctor's bad news. He's trying to get his hands on it. So you go to Sand Zone and try and find the original like flower or whatever, and destroy it or something.
Mm-hmm.
So you go to Sand Zone, which is the desert level of the game, in case you couldn't tell by the title of Sand
It's not a
Zone.
beach. Hate to
and
break it to you.
You come across what appears to be another robot soldier character.
Oh.
You follow her into her house, and she's like, hey, you're another robot soldier like me, huh?
You're not so different, you and I.
Except there is one difference, because every other robot soldier I've come across has tried to kill the Mamiga, because that's what we were designed to do, but you better snap out of it. The Mamiga aren't your enemies, and so I'm going to be a mini-boss fight. And so you're like, hey, I don't want to fight anybody, but okay, you're a tough lady with a machine gun, but you eventually beat her if you're good at the game. And she's like, oh, wait, so you don't want to kill us. Neat. Do you want to have my machine gun? And you're like, if you don't know the secret weapons in this game, you're like, heck yeah, I want that machine gun. You kick my butt with it. And so she's like, great. I'm Curly Brace. I am robot soldier too. I think you're cool. So you're like, I think you're cool too, and you leave.
Robot love.
By the way, your main character, it's not like explicitly said at the beginning or anything, but his name is Quote. So Quote and Curly Brace are the main robot characters, and it's a programming pun because it's pretty clever. Anyway, you go later into the Sand Zone. You have a run-in with Misery and Balrog, who are like, hey, we found the flowers. Bye. We're gonna zap you into the garbage pit at the bottom of the island. And it's like, oh, that's rude. So you kind of claw your way up out of the bottom of the labyrinth at the bottom of the bottom.
It's down there.
It's down there.
But up.
And also Curly Brace was sent down there too. And so there's this really great sequence where you guys like team up and you're shooting dudes, and she's like, hey, we're being cool together. We're fighting guys.
Hey, that's pretty good.
And she's actually really helpful. She's even got like, so there's this, so actually I'm going to dive briefly aside into the game mechanics because it, one specific thing, because you can't actually, you can't breathe underwater, which is weird because you're a robot. But if you go underwater, like you'll, you have a countdown before you start to lose life and die.
Mm-hmm.
But Curly Brace has like this bubble shield, so when you're in this labyrinth area fighting dudes, she'll jump in the water and have her bubble shield on her and be able to move freely, whereas you have to like boost out with the jetpack you get if you don't do the good ending. Anyway, so you guys start to work your way out of the labyrinth, and you have a run-in with Toaster Man Balrog. And he's like, hey, I've been told to beat you up, but I've also been left here by my partner in crime, which is awkward, but I'm still going to fight you. Then you fight him, and it's like, hey, now I've beat you. Could you help us move this rock that's blocking the door? And he's like, okay, but tell nobody.
Don't tell the elf.
Right. So you descend deeper into the island in the Sky Cave, and until you're at the core of the island. You like unlock all these huge, heavy vault doors, and you go into the depths, and there's like this core of the island. It's like a rock with like an eyeball in it. And you you wake up the core of the island, and it's not happy because there's all these dead robot soldiers here, like they were trying to take the core out. And so you fight the core, and it's a tough fight, and you try and take it out. But before it's like completely dead, Misery and the Doctor show up, and it's like, let's move the core of the island away from here, because if it blows up, the whole place goes down.
Oh.
And so how about we leave and flood the room with water? And so they leave, and the room floods with water, and you're panicking because you can't breathe, and there's no way out, and you black out. But then you unblack out and realize that you have a bubble shield now. And that lying on the ground behind you is Curly Brace. And if you're and playing that blind for the first time, it hit me so hard. It's like, she's the best character.
Oh, she's dead there. Oh.
Anyway, so if you don't know the obtuse good ending, you leave her there and just kind of make your way through the waterways that lead back to the main area. And it's just kind of really a melancholic breather moment. Even the I'll talk about the music later. Well, yeah. But like, it's not as intense action packed as the rest of the game. It's just like this really oddly poignant moment.
Mm-hmm.
It's great. And I'll talk about the music, but the music accentuates it too. So you make it back to the village of the Mimiga somehow because you went through the waterways. And nobody's home except for King, I believe. And right. So because the Doctor took everybody else.
Oh.
Right. And so you actually walk in on the Doctor taking like one of the Mimiga away, and King steps in and is like, I won't have that. I'm going to draw my sword and try and fight you. But the Doctor's like, lol, nope, you're dead. And the King, before he dies, is like, hey, robot kid, take my sword and avenge me. And also fight this abomination he created. Boss fight thing. It was actually one of the other Mimiga characters who got mutated. That's your first like boss fight encounter.
Actually, the boss fight is the monster.
So it's very sad. Anyway, so next thing that happens is you go back to the egg corridor where all the dragons were being cooked up. But all the eggs are broken. And the dragons are all either dead or half dead and standing in your way, angrily throwing fireballs at you.
Like you do.
Like you do. But there is one egg at the end of the whole corridor after a couple of fights and stuff that is ready to hatch. And in fact, it hatched a healthy little dragon. And you meet Kazuma, the Sue's older brother and the guy you talked to at the beginning of the game. And he's like, so the original plan was for me and my family to hatch a bunch of dragons and escape the island from the Doctor and stuff, because that's our escape plan. But now the Doctor has everything he needs for his plan, and I'm scared. So I'm going to fly away in this dragon. You want to come with me? And you say yes, and you fly away.
Oh.
If you want to get the bad ending. You can also say no. And then you climb up the side of the island and into the next area. And this climb up the side of the island is actually another really poignant moment where it's like you just made a decision to not abandon everything. And there's this really, like the best song in the whole, well, not the best song in the whole, they're all the best song. But one of the best songs in the whole game plays in the background, and it's called Moon Song. And it's this really like bittersweet melody. But then like as you go into the next area, you like walk out into the plantation where the Doctor's growing all the red flowers, and the music from the title screen kicks in, and you're like, okay, new start. Let's get this. It's all coming full circle. It's actually really cool.
Storytelling through music.
I know, right? So no, you get to the plantation. You help build a You help Sue and Kazuma's mom, who's also there as a scientist, build a rocket to get to the doctor after you do a couple little fetch questy things. You dive through the last cave to the doctor, which has this really great song that also like accentuates how close you are to the end. Then you get to the top of the island. Now you're on out of the cave, if you will, and in the sky area. You fight Misery once before you go fight the boss. And you go fight the doctor, and he's like, hey, I've taken all of the... Not only do I have the evil demon crown that I found on this island, but I also boiled down the flowers into their purest crystalline form. So now I have this crystal of evil energy I'm using. And you're like, that's not good. I'm going to shoot you.
This is bad news.
And so you shoot the doctor a bunch, and until he mutates into a bigger monster, and then you fight that some more, and then he melts down into red crystal angry energy, and then goes away. So you go to the next room where they have the core moved to, and Misery shows up to try and stop it, and she's like, "Hey, don't do that." But the doctor, in his evil energy form, is like, "Hey, I'm gonna possess the core and also make these characters bigger monsters to help me fight in this final battle." And so you do battle with the final form of the doctor in the core of the island. You blow up the core of the island, and the island starts to blow up and fall down and get destroyed. You make it to the chopper in time.
Get to the chopper.
And you escape the island with the scientists.
I saw the little rabbit creatures like dead or...
If you want the normal ending.
Oh.
There is a final secret, like good ending. And it starts with you ignoring somebody that dies. You have to, but there's a way where you can actually get a tow cable, and when Curly Brace gives you her oxygen bubble, you can carry her on your back through the next area.
Okay.
Find like an instruction books to drain all the water out of her system so that she can reboot. And then, so now that you've done all that and you can then secure the good ending, where after you beat the doctor, you go into back into the caves. You go into the underground, into what is essentially hell, because it turns out the origin of the demon crown is there was this ancient wizard guy named Balos who wanted to be all powerful, and so he created this artifact that eventually consumed him to the point where he needed to be sealed away at the center of the island.
So is that what the core is, or?
Kind of. I'm not sure exactly.
It's definitely not the final area in Undertale.
Right. No. So you
Which is
if
also
you're-
the second week in a row we mentioned.
so no, it's so
You can't mention indie games without mentioning Undertale.
pretty much.
This is almost exactly like Undertale.
It's actually harder than the Sans fight.
It's dark. It's the Dark Souls of Undertale.
So yeah, you go into the bloodstained sanctuary through this really, really difficult combat and platforming thing as the whole place is trying to crush you and crumble. You do like this whole boss rush thing, and you go to the center of the island, and there's Balos, and he's like, "Hi, I am the ancient evil, and I'm going to consume and destroy everything." Sucks
Like
to
you
be
do.
you. And you're like, oh.
No. Uno
Also,
reverse card.
On your way into the Bloodstained Sanctuary, you find Curly Brace, and so you strap her to your back again. But then over the course of the level, she wakes up, and then she starts shooting with you. It's like every time you pull the trigger, she shoots in the opposite direction, so you and her are like teamed up, like in sync. So you and Curly take down the true final evil boss guy, and then you, as the... I forget if like the island stops falling or if the island just disappears. But as you're falling off the island, you get caught by Balrog, who's like, "Hey, I'm a less bad guy now because the evil that was enslaving me is dead, so I can be cool with you now."
I now have
The
my own
evil-
agency.
The evil and maniacal Ross.
Balrog totally not being a reference to anything specific in particular.
Nope. Nothing in particular.
You do fight him after he's been turned into a frog, and it's called Balfrog, and it's really funny.
You shall not ribbit pass.
But no, so that's
Wrong guy.
That's the general plot of the game.
All right.
And I think it's a very simple story, but I think the thing I love about this game isn't so much the story itself, but how it's delivered.
Right.
I'm kind of a sucker for like really well delivered stories.
Yeah.
And this game uses every like gameplay tool in its toolkit to make it like hit home for you. So I guess the cool stuff I like about the game,
Yeah.
For one thing, it's a 2D platformer with some Metroid elements, so I love it for that reason.
Mm-hmm.
It's also hard, and I like hard games. And actually, there's a really cool like mechanic in this game where enemies will like drop experience point items, and you can pick them up, and they'll level up your guns.
Mm-hmm.
But if you take damage, you will lose level. So it would like encourage you to get really good and also not get hit, so you can keep your best weapon. And also, if you like get the machine gun to level 3 and you shoot it straight down, it'll launch you into the air. And so you can like hover around on a machine gun. It's actually really fun. But it's also like got a lot of like secrets to discover, because if you don't trade your pea shooter for the machine gun, you can later trade it for like a snaky fireball gun or like the charge blaster that's like super powerful. So it's just got a lot of like things to discover about it. There's a lot of like detail, which is really cool because it was initially made by one guy over the course of like 5 years. So it's like you kind of really see
Most impressive.
Indeed. In fact, he made the program that he wrote the music in for this game. And the music he wrote is fantastic.
Did this guy have like a game development background, or
I think he was just kind of
like a hobbyist?
Just kind of a hobbyist. He was just kind of a worked with computers for a company in the 90s when he was making it, and just over the course of his free time put this little passion project together. Super cool. And another thing I kind of like mentioned a little bit, but I love the music in this game. It's old school in all the best ways, but also it does a really good job emphasizing the story beats, because you got,
as I think all good music, accompaniment music for films and video games, etc., does.
right.
It underscores and deepens the meaning of the story beats.
Mm-hmm. I think this game just does a really, really good job of it, because you got this really peppy, upbeat title theme that's just like very old school and very like, oh, this is going to be a fun game.
Mm-hmm.
But then like in the emotional moments where like you go back to the egg corridor and everything's like destroyed.
Yep.
It's this really kind of tragic and but also like chaotic song.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, oh, something really messed up is going on here.
Mm-hmm.
Then you got Moon Song, you've got Living Waterway, both of which are like these really beautiful, calm moments after a huge emotional beat. And then you've got the song called Running Hell, which plays in the Bloodstained Sanctuary. Best song in the game, and it better be, because you're going to listen to it for hours as you try and beat that level.
Uh-huh.
It's one of those things where it's like you almost have, for the hardest level in the game, you have to have the best music, because otherwise you're just going to make people tired of playing it faster.
Yep.
And you're also going to make them tired of the music.
Not if it's hard to get tired of.
Right, but if you give them subpar music,
Right.
they'll just be like,
That's
"Oh, I
again.
hate this song."
But if it's something that like
And somebody will
actively
play
gets
it
you
on a YouTube playlist or something, and you'll just scream in pain.
And
I mean, you're screaming pain, but you jive at the same time.
Right.
it's just like Megalovania.
Yeah.
Exactly the same concept.
Oh, exactly the same in concept.
This slaps, but I'm in emotion. I'm in serious distress right now.
Or like, there's also in Donkey Kong Country 2, there's like this really ridiculously hard like level where you're going from barrel to barrel, blasting around, but it has the most chill and atmospheric song in the entire soundtrack, and it's like, I can't get angry at this. I'm mad at the level, but I can't get angry at this. Sticker Brush Symphony, in case you're curious. But no, so it kind of has that mentality to its music that's very old school Super Nintendo NES.
Mm-hmm.
And it does a really good job with the storytelling. The other thing I love about the storytelling in this game is the way it is reinforced through gameplay.
Sure.
Like, Curly Brace is my favorite character in the game because when you first meet her, she's standing up for what she believes in and also tough as nails.
Yep.
And so it's like, I respect you and you're cool and you give me a gun. You have given me your cool gun, making me more like you, making me cooler. Yes, please.
Mm-hmm.
And so later in the game, when she's on your team, and she's like, "Hey, we're a team, we're buddies, she's
Buddy,
helping
old
me."
pal, old
You
friend.
could not shoot a single bullet, and she'd also help you clear a path through the bad guys in the area. She's actually a helpful NPC.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't an escort mission.
Yep.
And so by the time you've fought through a difficult area and a difficult boss with her, when she, makes the sacrifice and gives you the bubble shield, it's like, dang, I really like this character. I had a relationship of sorts with this character through the gameplay that was entirely beneficial for both of us. It's like, and so the way that they made you fall in love with the character because she's a cool character in gameplay, and then having her sacrifice itself hit all the harder. It's not,
Mm-hmm.
But then also, like, it motivates you to try and find the secret way to save her. And when you do save her, it's super rewarding because you get this really hard fight and this really hard thing. So it's that's a lot the things that I like about this game in general. It's cool stuff.
Cool. I forget. Have I seen you play it?
Probably. I have it on Switch. I have it on Steam.
Okay.
You've probably seen me play this.
More than likely. I'm sure when I'm making the thumbnail,
As a matter of fact, so the character you play as is like this little square-headed, white-skinned robot guy.
Uh-huh.
His name is Quote. And on our whiteboard at our house, we have a quote of the day.
Okay. That's what that little doodle
That's
is.
what the little dude is. That's a quote from Cave Story. I
gotcha.
drew him next to the quote of the day.
Nice.
As a joke only I would get, but I figured you guys would think it would be funny because he's got a gun.
Yep. Well, I assumed it meant something.
It does, and now you know what it means.
I do now.
So yeah, if you've seen the game that
So my question about Quote is, does anything he does have anything to do with strings?
No, unfortunately. You don't even get like a grappling hook.
Is his alter ego, or not, is his nemesis, unquote?
No, because quotes always go together in programming.
Oh, that's true.
You never have just one. There's always two.
Always
Especially
true,
in imperative languages, which is what you're dealing with when you've got curly braces.
Yeah. I'm sure somebody has compiled a list of the times where computer science references are used in different media, like how in The Matrix, Oracle, the program makes you accept a cookie before she'll interact with you. Anyway.
And also, Oracle itself is the name of a software company
Yep.
that's been around a while. Not sure if it was around before The Matrix was made, but
It might have been a reference to The Matrix. You never know.
yeah.
Well, you wouldn't know unless you looked it up when Oracle was founded.
Yep. So yeah, curly brace and quote. That's kind of fun.
It is very fun. So yeah, that's generally my thoughts in the game. And also it's kind of an important game in the grand scheme of like video gaming history.
When did it come out?
Like 2004.
Okay.
So this is like the game that got popular online and proved games could get popular online.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of kicked off that initial indie surge that gave us like Super Meat Boy and Castle Crashers and games of that like.
Uh-huh.
That eventually led to Minecraft exploding the indie scene into what it is today.
Ah.
So it's like
Sort of a trailblazer.
kinda.
Without really trying to be, because it just sort of naturally happened that way.
And that's the thing. It was very organic. This guy wanted to make a game that's essentially a love letter to Metroid and Mega Man and the games he grew up with. And then it was just so good that other people fell in love with it. It's like, yeah, this is a good game. And it caught on like wildfire naturally because it was the birth of the internet and not a lot of other competition for the space, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And it, in turn, like inspired a whole bunch of other stuff. In fact, Cave Story, Undertale.
Yep.
I mean, there you can see the inspiration there,
Yep.
and like in a whole bunch of modern games. So it's kind of like pivotal little piece of game history, I think.
Cool.
Yeah.
So with that, are we ready to get into some transcendental analysis? Okay, cool. Truth. What is true in Cave Story?
Don't touch things called the Demon Crown.
Yeah.
That's
Generally good advice.
that is probably a bad idea. Don't mess with those kind of
Is
things.
there's some sort of symbolism behind the red flowers that turn the rabbit people into monsters?
Bum, ba-da-da, bum, bum, ba-da-da, bum.
Maybe not. What's the doctor's deal? Like, where did he come from? Why is he there? What is he doing?
So yeah,
Where did you come from?
Where did you go?
Cotton-eyed
the
doctor.
the doctor came with
Not a police call box. Just to get that out of the
he
way.
came with he came with Sue and Sakamoto's mom and another guy named Aito, and they all came to the island to research, but he was secretly there because he wanted the Demon Crown. Not a whole lot of depth. He's just kind of bad guy.
Evil
Quest
and
for
evil
power.
and maniacal. He turned the maniacal scientist into a cynical maniantist.
Yeah. Anyway, any other?
But like you could like in terms of like the Red Flower and the Mimiga, they're generally like a peaceful people, but then like when they go aggro, they kind of destroy themselves,
Mm-hmm.
right? So you could read into that
What you
perhaps
will,
some
yeah.
commentary on violence and war.
And there's also, I suppose the. I can't think of anything else. For truth.
It's
Oh,
very-
the things I was about to say had more to do with goodness. So
oh sure, but I think like it is a very simple story.
yeah,
But I think, like, again, for me, it's how it's told and, like, your first time experience with it.
it's all in the presentation.
It is. And that's more on the beauty side of things, but we'll get there eventually.
Yeah. So I guess
But there's truth, there's good, there's evil, you fight them, you fight the evil for the sake of the good, you know?
yeah. So I guess in goodness, I suppose the relationship between Quote and Curly Brace is
Yep.
one of the main.
Curly Brace is one of the main things that's good about the game, and her, loyal defense of the innocent Mimiga, her eventual sacrifice to save you, and then your attempts to save her. It's all very good.
Yeah.
Then also you've got there's that choice that Kazuma offers you. Hey, let's just fly away and ignore the bad. Let's not look at it. Sure, he'll take over the world. We'll just hide in the cave forever. We'll just and no,
Let's get out of Dodge.
no, you can't turn your back on that. You see an evil.
I mean, you can. The game lets you.
You can, and it lets you, but it makes it known that you were never heard from again, and it's not a good ending.
Yep.
But the fact that it offers it is kind of an interesting thing. It's like, oh, this is a legitimate ending to the game of the 3 that there are. But it's like, no, you can't ignore that. You can't ignore evil. That's not how you get rid of it.
Mm-hmm.
You have to.
You can't just pretend it's not there.
Mm-hmm.
Any other elements of goodness in Cave Story?
I mean, there's heroism of other characters like King, when he dies to protect his people and then gives you his sword.
Mm-hmm.
That as you level it up, when you get it to like max level, you throw the sword because it's a shooty platformy game. So all of them are projectiles. So you throw the sword, but when you throw it at max level, you get like the ghost of King doing a whole bunch of fury of swipes, and it's super OP.
Dang.
So he's with you in spirit in his sword.
Mufasa. Rabbit Mufasa.
A king move, one might say.
Yeah. Beauty.
Artistically, the
Talked
game
a lot
is,
about the music.
we did. Artistically, the game is very simple. It is like a 2004 indie game, that is inspired by NES games.
Mm-hmm.
So the sprite work is very like simple and straightforward. Later releases like updated the graphics a little bit, so it's more 16-bit. But still, the art style remains. And it's very simple, very straightforward. But there's like an elegance to its simplicity.
Sure.
You know?
Yeah.
It's like, oh yeah, that. And then like the characters get little portraits when they have dialogue. So like the text box will pop up and you see their face.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
They kind of do that thing. So visually it is simple, but it works, and it works to its benefit. I think it's and of course I have gushed already about the music, but the music's so good.
Mm-hmm.
There's like not a single track that is like bad. Sure, some of them are like forgettable or like only match the moments, but then like all the rest of them stick with you.
So the integration of the complementary integration of the gameplay, the visuals, and the music with the story beats make for a overall pleasant experience.
Yeah, and honestly, I would say more than pleasant, but then again,
Right.
just
Yeah, I was
because
trying
it's
to come
game
up
I
with a
like.
different word, and I couldn't think of anything else.
But also the game plays
Edifying game experience. There
The
we go.
game plays actually really well too.
With the controls.
The controls are really good. If you're good at them, I suppose it's
Mm-hmm.
again a difficult game, but it's also like really gratifying to beat finally.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think honestly the most beautiful thing about the game is the way it all comes together,
Mm-hmm.
and like particularly for moments like the choice to not fly away, or the sacrifice of Curly Brace, or like the final run through the bloodstained sanctuary, even though it's your 100th time and you have your butt clenched as you try and escape the weird angel dudes that are trying to shoot you with arrows.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, and speaking of how it all comes together, I suppose.
Yeah, with Unity, we can get into that.
It is story about a cave.
Yeah. This is the
This
story of a
is the story about a cave.
Cried a
Also,
river
we
and
had that
started a
idea.
whole rave.
I love how we had that idea
At the same
absolutely
time.
But also, it's very much this one guy's game. Daisuke Amaya, it's his passion project. It is a love letter to the games he loved, and it's just the story he wanted to tell. It's kind of similar to Undertale with Toby Fox, although Toby Fox did a lot more storytelling and had a lot more to tell with his story, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But it's similar in the fact that this is a unified vision from one guy, and it's just...
And he saw it through.
He saw it through. And the way it all came together was just really elegant. Yeah. I really like this game. In fact, I want to almost fire it up now and do a quick speed run.
I don't doubt that.
Of course, I did beat Metroid Dread twice between 2 episodes. So.
Yep. Wouldn't put it past you.
I wouldn't put it past me neither.
I guess any other things to add before we wrap things up? We good?
Nope.
If you're at all inclined to play the game, you can still get it for free on the original website.
What is the original website?
I don't know, probably cavestory.net or something.
Okay.
Do you get it
You look
free
it
on the Swimch?
No, that's $20.
Probably because of the ports.
But I have it. I have an actual cartridge of it too. So I guess I'm paying for that.
Uh-huh.
And it's not really expensive if you buy it on Steam. It's just the slightly updated version. So if you don't want to download your own translation patch, although there are some like funny little discrepancies between the translation and like the official release, because the fan translation, one of the things is Balrog, the giant toaster guy, like always bursts through a ceiling or a wall or something.
Oh yeah.
And oh yeah is the exclamation that the official translation goes for. The original fan translation has him come in with a huzzah. Both are equally funny, but like have a different charm to them.
Sure. Well, you can
What website can they find us on?
bursting through the walls. Well, thanks for listening to the Palladium Papist. You can listen to us on Spotify, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, and Apple Podcasts. Follow us on Twitter and Facebook at Papists. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, or complaints, or suggestions for future episodes, email us at palladiumpapist@gmail.com. We will talk to you guys again next week. Goodbye.
Bye.
See ya.
Oh yeah. Oh no.